in guided reading, amplified science, Eureka Math, and cognitively guided instruction. Ms. Sato taught at RBUSD elementary schools for 19 years and began her elementary teaching career in the Torrance Unified School District, where she taught for 6 years before joining the RBUSD team. Ms. Sato earned her undergraduate degree in liberal studies from Cal State Northridge and her master's degree in educational leadership from the University of Laverne. Ms. Sato will begin on December 7th, which will give her 2 weeks to work with Dr. Hilliard before his retirement on December 18th. We look forward to Ms. Sato's continued success at Alta Vista Elementary School in this new role as principal. Congratulations. Okay, the approval of the agenda was motioned by David, seconded by Raymer, and all 5 voted approval. Minutes for the October 27th. Can I get a motion second, please?
So moved.
Second.
Student advisory vote.
Aye.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Thank you. All right, first report to the board, enrollment and capacity study report. Larry Furchell, Cooperative Strategies Partner.
I don't know if Larry can hear us really well.
Yes, I can. Do you want me to share my screen or?
Yeah, go ahead and share your screen, Larry.
Okay, just 1 second. Make sure I have it set correctly.
It's our first remote Zoom.
Well,
I'm gonna look at my screen.
first, thanks for letting me join remotely. Sorry for the inconvenience of that. Hopefully you can see my screen now, which is the presentation on the developer fee justification study that is on the agenda for both a public hearing and action item this afternoon. Good afternoon, members of the board, Superintendent Keller and staff. Just wanted to give a quick overview of the developer fee justification study that is in front of you this afternoon. And what are developer fees? Kind of an overview of that. So developer fees, school impact fees, they go by many different names, but they are fees paid to school districts by the owners of properties at the time of new construction or expansion of existing construction to mitigate the enrollment impacts that are created by those new developments. The idea being new homes, new businesses, that results in additional student enrollment, which requires the district to expand or reconstruct its school facilities in order to accommodate that student enrollment growth. You currently collect fees in the amount of $3.48 per square foot for residential construction and 56 cents per square foot for commercial industrial construction. The new maximum fee, these get changed every 2 years by the state, and the new maximum that was set by the state in 2020 is $4.08 per square foot for residential and 66 cents per square foot for commercial industrial. They're, again, only imposed at the time of a building permit for new units or existing residential units when they're expanded by greater than 500 square feet. And it is one of a limited number of funding tools to pay for school facilities. Next slide here is just looking at there's different types of school fees or developer fees or again, impact fees that you'll hear about at times. You'll sometimes hear about level 2 or level 3 fees. That's not what we're addressing today. We're looking only at the statutory or level 1 fee. And that again is a maximum rate that is set by the state allocation board and adjusted every 2 years. And it is an amount that you have to show that you're justified in collecting in order to charge that increased amount. Level 2 fees are higher than level 1 fees, as their name would suggest. They do require a separate study. They apply only to residential fees, and they vary by district depending on local factors. But the district only at this time qualifies for level 1 fees. Just wanted to have this in there so you understand there are different types. You'll sometimes hear about those different types of fees through this process. I've addressed this already. This just kind of highlights the change that was approved by the state allocation board in January, taking you from your current fee of $3.48 for residential up to the proposed $4.08 per square foot and 56 cents to 66 cents for commercial industrial. In order to charge these increased fees, you have to have a study performed or an analysis performed to show that there's a nexus or a connection between the impact of residential development, the need for school facilities and the cost of those school facilities to make sure that you have a reasonable relationship between what you're charging and what the impact is. And that was the study that you have in front of you this afternoon. Makes that case for those fees. On slide 4 here, we just talk a little bit about how the level 1 fee for residential is calculated. What are the steps involved? Kind of boiling down 40 something pages of riveting text into one easy to read slide. So we look at how much residential development could occur within the school district over what we call build out. We look at how many students on average are generated from a new home within the school district. So you can see here that on average there's 44 students for every 100 single-family detached homes and 32 students for every 100 multifamily attached units. And that's TK through 12 are what those student generation rates represent. You'll see in the report that they're shown as decimals because we look at it on a per unit basis, but in the presentation we show it on a per 100 so you can see the impact a little bit more. Based on the existing capacity of the school district, which we've gone through and updated, so you'll see that in the document towards the end, there's an exhibit that shows the calculated capacities for all the schools within the district. Based on that, there's a existing capacity to accommodate any student enrollment growth at the middle school at this time, but there would be a need for additional elementary and high school classrooms potentially to accommodate that growth. A lot of the change in capacity that we're seeing has to do at the elementary school level with single session kindergarten that has been introduced, which creates a need for additional classroom spaces. So that is why the classroom or the inventory and capacity at the elementary school level declined slightly from the last time we looked at this. Based on costs that you've experienced, we estimate the cost for the expansions to be about $11.3 million all in when you look at planning costs, soft costs, construction costs, furniture and equipment, all that goes into it. And then when you divide those costs by the number of units and the average square footage of those units, you arrive at a cost impact of $4.21 per single family detached unit and $7.01 for multifamily attached units. And as you recall, the maximum that we're allowed to charge is $4.08 per square foot. So this shows that we're justified in that collection. So that handles the residential piece. The next slide, on slide 5, talks about the commercial industrial. It is a much smaller fee on a per square footage basis, but we actually spend probably more of the report that you have in front of you dealing with that one and showing the relationship because it may not be as readily apparent as it is for residential construction. But there's really two impacts that commercial industrial construction can have. And we talk about a direct impact being that as new businesses are built within the district, they will have new employees who will come into the district and may seek to have their children transfer into the district on an inter-district transfer basis, creating additional enrollment. And then on the indirect side, those same new businesses would attract new employees who may then buy new homes within the school district. And as we showed on the previous slide, those new homes don't fully mitigate their impact. There's on the multifamily side, about a $3 per square foot delta between the actual impact and what we are able to collect. And so these commercial fees go to partially offset the difference as well. So the report goes through and looks at a bunch of different factors, average employees per household, propensity to occupy a new home, employees per 1,000 square feet, those sorts of things. And you'll see here that we get to what are the true cost impacts per square foot in that second column, and then what are you allowed to charge. So again, we're capped at 66 cents per square foot, but you can see the impacts range from at the highest $2 per square foot for the office down to 68 cents for the hotel motel. Self-storage we kind of keep on its own. Generally those are few and far between, but they generate a lot of square footage and not a lot of employees. And so you see the range of impacts are based on the amount of employees per square foot that you generally see. And the office generally has a higher employees per square foot than a hotel motel would. And so that's why you see the range of impacts. But again, you're justified at that 66 cents for all of the different commercial industrial categories except for self-storage. So that's a little bit of a walk through the study and the calculations. In terms of process, we're required to have the studies available for a 10-day public review period, and that began on October 30th with a notice in the newspaper of tonight's public hearing. That was required to be followed up with a second notice of public hearing on November 5th for tonight's public hearing by the board in consideration of the resolution to approve the studies and increase the fees to the $4.08 and 66 cents per square foot. If approved tonight, then the district will submit letters to the local planning agencies on Thursday after tomorrow's holiday, and the fees will go into effect 60 days after tonight's board meeting, which would put you at January 11th for when the increased fees would take effect if the board chose to approve the resolution that you have before you tonight. And with that, I will turn it over for any questions or any other information I can provide.
Is there any questions?
One question, Brad, is if Larry can hear me, maybe you could repeat.
Sure.
The number of classrooms required, is he taking into account the modular units that reach the end of their useful life that eventually either need to be replaced or converted into real classrooms?
Did you hear that, Larry, or do you need me to repeat it?
I think I got that. Did it take into account the modular units the district currently has that may be reaching the end of their useful life? And no, it doesn't include those. It includes the capacity as it exists, regardless of the quality of that capacity at this point. In future years, we may want to address that because that would create additional impacts to reconstruct that capacity.
I guess my question then, piggybacking on Mike's, is that something that we should maybe re-look at, or is that something, it's wait for a year or two and then come back again to look at it?
And I may have lost a little bit of the last part of the sentence, but I think because we are justified at the $4.08 per square foot at this time, it's not something we would need to include, but it's something we could include in future updates as the fee level increases to show that you're still justified in collecting the current fee or higher fee levels.
It's a good question. I don't know if Larry can hear me, but I'm glad it was asked, Mike. My question would be, if we can get this to Larry, is there an industry standard for shelf life for our modular portable units? We haven't built one in 20 years, or not built one. We haven't rolled one in at least 20 years. So I would say there's somewhere between 20 and 30 years. So does that play a factor in this?
The state school program for modernization would provide you funding to modernize your modular classrooms or relocatables after 20 years. It's 25 years for permanence and it's 20 years for relocatables. So that's generally seen as when they need to be at least refreshed. When they reach the end of their useful life can vary district to district.
I've got a question about the...
And again, that refreshment could also vary. I'm sorry, the refreshment could also vary. I mean, sometimes the refreshment is so expensive that it might as well be replaced at that point as well. So it really varies based on the condition, but 20 years is definitely when you would want to take a good look at them.
The numbers that you used for potential new units, is that based on current zoning, RENA numbers, or some other way of looking at the data?
So we use, thanks. And so the question is, where do we get the information on residential development? We utilize information that's provided by the Southern California Association of Governments. And so through their regional housing allocation and planning document, they break up the Southern California area into traffic analysis zones. And so we pull that data for the city of Redondo Beach to identify that. And I know the SCAG is going through that process of looking at that information again, and we'll have some updates coming out in the next couple months.
Okay. Anything else? Hearing nothing. Thank you very much, Larry.
Thank you very much.
Okay, so we're going to do things a little differently today. The goal of this is we have a bunch of written requests in, and based on 7.2, a lot of those questions will be answered. So instead of doing this backwards in the sense of reading questions after we've answered questions and adhering to the Brown Act itself, I'm going to suggest that we start off with the communications. So allow RBTA to present if they choose to, and any other union business, and then jump to 8.1, which we will read all of the letters and things that we have received, and then jump back to 7.2. I promise we will get to every line item, but I think this probably would be the most efficient so that we can, for the public, be able to address properly answers to some of the statements that are made within the letters, because otherwise we as a board are not able to respond. But I believe the presentation will cover at least a good chunk of it, so just to kind of keep this organized. So we'll start with the communications section and RBTA.
Good afternoon. I'm Monica Joyce. I'm president of RBTA. If anything seems out of, because I thought I would be coming afterwards, so I'm just editing as I read. Okay. As you will hear from our members, there are still many questions that need to be answered regarding the return of students to in-person instruction. This will require a tremendous amount of dialogue between our members and administration, followed by logistical planning at the district level and at each site. These discussions must take place before students return. This planning will take time if it's going to be done correctly and safely. If the hybrid model is going to be successful, teachers have to have training and then planning time to teach in a different way than we have since March. We need a lot of support to pivot to a hybrid teaching model. Teachers need assistance in setting up a technology in our classrooms that is needed for hybrid instruction. When we look at the calendar for the remainder of 2020, how will this be accomplished? Returning more students before winter break is not optimum for a variety of reasons. We are also very concerned about the increase in positive COVID-19 cases in LA County in the past 2 weeks. The numbers are not going in the right direction. It is unlikely that it will improve in the coming weeks due to Thanksgiving and holiday celebrations. We have to do what is right for Redondo Beach and not to be concerned with what other districts are doing. Thank you.
I saw CSEA earlier, but I will preface by saying if someone does come to speak while, since we have jumped around, we of course will make sure that their voice can be heard. But I'm going to try to keep going in order in the interim. I haven't seen AFT and I haven't seen PTA at this point. I do know there's a report for RBEF, so I will let Ms. Flynn answer that.
Okay. RBEF recently awarded grants to teachers at Bernie, Madison, Washington, and Toledo Elementary, Adams and Paris Middle School, and RUHS. Some of the amazing grants are technology and physical education, esports, making history come to life, honoring identities, learning from Black and Indigenous voices, diverse literature initiative, and creating science from everyday things. Skechers, a shout out to Madison Elementary for hitting their goal and having a unicorn parade through their neighborhood. Adams Middle School increased their walkers from 2019, and RUHS for increasing their walkers from 2019 by 100 walkers. Congratulations and gratitude to the entire Team RBUSD. Official results for Team RBUSD are expected next week. The annual investor drive, $573,000 have been raised to date toward our $700,000 goal. You can still donate at rbef.org. Current fundraising events: Uncorked Hermosa Beach virtual wine tasting event, November 19th and December 10th. Flower Duet holiday floral arrangement. Art Academy architecture series. You can find information for all of these events at rbef.org.
Thank you. Okay, so jumping back to 8.1, I am just going to read the disclaimer just for those who are watching. I'm not aware of anyone downstairs, but if they are, just so everyone understands. Members of the audience may address the board on any topic regardless of whether it's listed on the agenda. However, due to Brown Act regulations, the board cannot engage in public discussions on items not on the agenda. Topics not on the agenda which are brought forth to the board's attention may be investigated by the administration and a report made to the board, either publicly or privately at a future meeting. Comments from visitors shall not exceed 3 minutes unless the time limit is waived by a majority of the board. The board shall limit the total time for public input on each item to 20 minutes. With board consent, the president may increase or decrease the time allowed for public presentation depending on the topic and number of persons wishing to be heard. We have 11 public comments. So as we have done in the last few meetings, I will read them. Dear RBUSD board members, I'm writing to express my concern surrounding the classification of TK and kindergarten students as a vulnerable population in order to return them to in-person instruction before the LA County Department of Health has deemed it safe to physically open schools. While distance learning has become extremely difficult for both students and teachers, RBTA members have spent countless hours reimagining their curriculum, trying to engage students in ways they've never attempted in public education before this year. The LA County Department of Health established safety guidelines and timelines, and the district and RBTA agreed that we would return to in-person instruction when those conditions were met. While we may have our own opinions about whether those timelines are too fast or too slow, the fact that the rules haven't changed, the district is just using creative language and loopholes to skirt them. I can't possibly imagine how our TK and kindergarten teachers are supposed to continue their daily online instruction, conduct parent-teacher conferences, and prepare classrooms for students to physically return in little less than a month. For example, most of our kindergarten teachers share rooms and materials. Have additional sets of all materials been ordered for kindergarten teachers? Many of them will also have to move classrooms. When will they do this since they are online with students 5 days a week? As an elective representative of CTA, I frequently meet with educators throughout the state. I have heard stories from districts who returned to in-person instruction and have already had to quarantine. For example, the Newhall School District returned their second grade dual immersion students to campus last Monday. On Wednesday, they had a student test positive and had to quarantine the whole class for 14 days. There are inherent risks to returning to in-person instruction. By rushing to physically open as soon as possible, we are putting students and teachers at risk when it isn't necessary. I would ask for you to reconsider the timeline for TK and kindergarten to return to in-person instruction and not to approve it till at least January 2021. Kind regards, Sarah Robinson, RBTA, Vice President, Teacher at RUHS. Public comment number 2. Dear RBUSD board members, district officials, and Dr. Keller. Redondo Beach TK and kindergarten teachers have many questions and concerns regarding the return to in-person instruction. We feel there's a lack of clarity and communication between RBUSD administration, board, and teachers. We need clarity on the following topics, especially since our unique grade level is being considered as a vulnerable population and we could return without a waiver. Under safety and health, since all kindergarten classes are now AM, how will moving setup of new classes be handled? Will displaced teachers have to share with CDC? Displaced teachers using a non-kinder classroom for kindergartners poses a bathroom issue. How and where do students use the restroom? Who watches, helps our kindergarten kids while they're in the restroom? What happens when a kid has an accident? How do we know if the children wash their hands? What is the protocol for elopers, criers, harmful behavior to themselves or others? Will aides be traveling from one classroom to another? How many classrooms and student cohorts will they be interacting with? If students travel and take vacations, do they have to quarantine for 14 days before returning to our classrooms? What are the triggers for switching to distance learning? If a student shows any COVID symptoms, what is the protocol from start to finish? What is the protocol for student family members who have been exposed to COVID? Who will be contacted and how will they be quarantined? How will recess work? Will cohorts mix at recess, and who will monitor for teachers who are on break? Is there a limit to the number of students at recess together? What activities will be provided for social distance recess? Will we have the doors open and heaters on in the cold and rain? Under childcare, now we are forced to go in person. What childcare will be provided for those teachers who have school-age children with childcare is already full? Can RBUSD offer a CDC discount to employees like neighboring districts do? There are teachers paying over $2,000 a month to send their children to CDC. Parents that enroll their children in CDC before school started were not told that their child would not attend CDC after school on days that the child is on campus for live instruction. This now means that we have to find new childcare 2 to 3 days a week during hybrid. How is this fair to those of us with our own children having to continue to pay for childcare while other teachers continue to teach from home without these childcare issues? Equity. There's a huge equity issue in regards to what we're being asked of a lower elementary teacher compared to all other district teachers. Why should TKK teachers have to take a leave without pay when not all RBUSD teachers are being asked to return to in-person learning? Next, will there be another option for teachers that would like to remain in distance learning model? Taking a leave is not an option for many of us during the pandemic. Will there be release time provided for setting up COVID-ready classrooms? Will classroom teaching materials, curriculum, all necessary teaching tools that were once shared be provided? The most current hybrid schedule that was sent out last week to CDC parents stated that there's an arrival window from 8 to 8:25. Are we temperature checking our own students? If so, who's watching the rest of the class while we do this? As lower grade teachers, again, how is this equitable that we now start our day at 8 and 3 through 12 are starting at 8:30? Governor Newsom mandates that it's not safe to return to school. TK through 2 teachers did not consent to the application of the waiver. We overwhelmingly oppose it via a recent union survey. We feel that we are not being heard. Our time is being consumed by responding to parent emails, troubleshooting technology problems, professional development meetings, and prepping planning materials. Will there be extra planning time if we have to plan for in-person and home students simultaneously? How will we teach 2 cohorts simultaneously? Transparency. Will teachers be mandated to teach live students and Zoom students simultaneously? Please demonstrate and give clear guidelines. Parents seem to be fighting for something they don't clearly understand. It is a responsibility of RBUSD to give parents and teachers clarity in regards to what hybrid looks like on a daily for student at home and in person. Many decisions are being made without having an understanding of how our day works. According to the in-classroom first aid, COVID, health precautions slides, teachers are supposed to tend to student injuries, nosebleeds, bee stings, bug bites, stress, anxiety, psychological issues, all while teaching. We no longer have co-teachers. Please explain how we're supposed to do this how we're supposed to be in multiple places at one time. Why did the letter to parents say the district consulted with teachers? Were any of them TK through 2nd grade teachers? It is very disrespectful to infer that parents and teachers are in support of this waiver process when the results of the RBTA survey says otherwise. What is the district's offering as compensation to teachers in preparation for an in-person return? As mentioned, many of our TK teachers have concerns and feel that we need them to be addressed. We look forward in our questions being answered. In solidarity, there's 3, 6, 8, roughly 38 teachers that have signed this. We did receive a couple separate letters from individuals within that 38. The names will be published up on the website, so rather than reading them here today. Public comment number 3, dear RBUSD board members, district office leaders, and Dr. Keller. I'm writing to express my thoughts related to the potential return to campus for TK and K students. As a longtime teacher in the district, I am committed to doing what is best for my students. In this case, however, I'm concerned with a plan that will bring us back to campuses without the appropriate level of planning and support in place. I hesitate as well because an updated MOU between RBTA and RBUSD describing teachers' work expectations on the model is not currently complete. We have recently seen a steady uprising case of COVID-19 in LA County. Governor Newsom has indicated it's not safe for schools in our county to be open for all students. I'm disheartened to hear that the school board and district are willing to risk the health and safety of this particular population of students and teachers. Kindergarten students need support with respecting the personal space of others, following directions and practicing self-control. These are all skills that will be expected of students when they return to a hybrid model that requires physical distance and mask use. Kindergarten students are also brand new to our campuses. They have not established procedures related to the restroom use, hand washing, and playing appropriately and safely at recess. In previous years, kindergarten teachers had the support of partner teachers to assist in development of these skills. This year, that support has been removed. In a time when it's not safe for all students to return to campus and when health and safety protocols will need to be of utmost importance, I ask you to reconsider your plan to start on-campus instruction with the youngest learners who need the most support in learning personal care skills. At the very least, if moving forward, please offer a plan that will give TKK teachers the adult support in every classroom that will be needed to ensure a safe and healthy return. Thank you for your time to review my letter and for your service to the students and staff of RBUSD. Sincerely, Stephanie Hale, kindergarten teacher at Washington Elementary. Public comment number 4. Dear board members, I am writing in response to the information I'm hearing from the county, MBUSD, and my current family regarding the plans being developed to reopen in-person instruction for TK through 2 grade, as well as a plan to reopen for in-person instruction for vulnerable population. What is the definition of a vulnerable population? Is it the depressed high school student, the middle school student needing peer contact, the elementary school or student struggling without additional support, the TK student having to stay at a desk for extended period of time, or the teacher who's caught in the middle? Each group is vulnerable, equally vulnerable. Why is the focus of in-person instruction only on TK through K or TK through 2? As I enter my 31st year of teaching with RBUSD this summer, I came back to teach in my classroom. I eat alone, teach alone, and limit my time in the office. I'm doing my best that I can to keep myself COVID-free so that I can continue to live with my husband, see my 4 young grandkids, and my own children. The plan to return in-person instruction destroys my safety zone. I will be exposed to not only the staff, but the children, their family, and anyone who they've been come in contact with. I will not be able to see my grandchildren or my children. I will be placing my husband at risk. This is the first time in 31 years that I'm afraid to go to school. We know the science, we know the statistics, the number of positive cases are increasing. Every day this week, we must exceed the record number of cases from the day before. Why, I must ask, are we even reconsidering for opening for in-person instruction? Why are we not following the science and common sense and remaining online until it's safe to reopen? We know it's not safe to reopen now. While I understand the wish to return to pre-COVID life, the idea of having 5 and 6-year-olds back in my classroom is overwhelming. I'm in the dark as to how returning to in-person learning will actually be accomplished. The last date the task force released was a return to in-person learning in December after conferences. This leaves 1 week before the holiday break. Am I not to be allowed to see my family for the holidays? The timing seems ill-advised. If we do reopen, eventually we need to have a clear path on how to best accomplish this task. As a teacher, the district has not communicated with me a timeline or an understanding of my rights and responsibilities. One cannot expect me to work longer or harder than I have been. I've been working 11-hour days to plan and deliver my instruction. My families have been happy with their instruction for their children that they have been receiving. No one could expect more. The anxiety this possibility has caused me and my family could be alleviated with a clear plan and a fair timetable in which to complete the transition. Thinking of all the moving parts that need to be arranged, it cannot be expected that after teaching a full day, planning for the next weeks, preparing take-home packets, completing report cards, and meeting with parents at conferences, that any human could then begin to plan to transition in-person or online instruction. Please reconsider the reopening during a COVID upswing. Please do not let the wishes of a few destroy the health of many. I ask you to read this email aloud during the board meeting in the hope that my voice and concerns be heard and considered. Sincerely, Virginia DeRossi, kindergarten teacher. Number 5, dear board members, I am requesting that my letter be read at the meeting today. I am writing as an RBUSD parent and teacher. I have signed my name on the letter sent by our TK kindergarten teachers listing our concerns and questions that must be answered before a plan to return our kids to campus is even considered, but have additional parent concerns. I'm confused that a plan can be presented that does not include teacher input and no agreement has been reached with the union. Teachers have been surprised by the district's application for a waiver and then surprised again that there's a plan for TK to K to return without our input. To begin with, we're in a pandemic and the COVID numbers in our community are rising. It is winter and cold and flu season. We have several holidays coming up where COVID will undoubtedly continue to spread. This is not the time to bring back students because it's not safe. It is not in the best interest of students to have to cope with devastation of a classmate or teacher being sick or dying. I have been with my kindergarten class ever since August. Even though we only have met online and a car drive-through in the school parking lot, I consider each child and their family now my family. We are connected. Their safety is my #1 priority. Will parents know exactly what they're agreeing to? The following are questions I ask on behalf of parents for them to be able to make an informed decision. What exactly will each child's day look like? Will they come 2 days 1 week and 3 days the next? Will the teacher be teaching to an online student and home at the same time? Our students are having difficulty now with teachers' attention. How will split attention be better for them? Will students have less teacher time than they do now because they will be on their own on the days that they are not in school? What if I have 3 kids at home and only one goes back to school? Do I drag the rest with me to drop the one off, then drag them back to pick them up in a few hours? Who will make sure my child makes it safely to the restroom while the teacher is teaching the other students? How will I know if my students are maintaining 6 feet of social distancing and wearing their masks so my children are not put at risk? If TK and kindergarten are not mandatory grades, why am I risking my children's health? Will the heater be on when the door is open in the rain and cold weather? School will not be the same. We will be masked and 6 feet apart at all time. Social interaction will be severely limited. At least when the teacher online, I can smile at my kids and see their smiles. This will not happen in person. The parent questionnaire asked if parents were willing to send their students back to school when it was safe. We don't know how TK and kindergarten parents feel about a specific plan now. If parents decide it's not safe or too difficult to juggle the return, will they be forced to choose a completely online instruction and lose the teacher they have bonded with for the last 3 months? I do not want to lose my kids and family. Please consider what's best for our children. Sincerely, Diana Bonatati. Number 6, the most recent board meeting highlighted challenges facing students, guardians, and teachers under distance learning. Ms. Jennifer Minnick testified seeing her students learning in bedrooms, kitchens, living rooms, sheds, and garages. Board member Mike Christensen noted new monitors and tablets really made a difference for teachers as they work to build out their curricula. The survey data presented, including distance learning, is working for many students. As board member Brad Waller and Mike Christensen pointed out, many students may not be faring as well. We have spent 5 weeks actively tutoring a RUHS freshman. We took on temporary custody of the student to provide him crucial resources he would otherwise not have access to. When we began working with him, he struggled to understand his classes, his assignments, and how the teachers prefer to communicate. These challenges hurt his academic performance, no matter how competent, diligent, or willing he was. We believe our experience is not unique. A parent last week noted they had spent over $2,000 in additional support and tutoring only for their students to still struggle. The trajectory of COVID suggests distance learning, and so these challenges will be part of RBUSD for the foreseeable future. RBUSD has received more than $3.4 million from the coronavirus fund. The majority must be spent by December 30th. We asked the board and district how much of this funding has been allocated and remains to be spent, who is responsible for allocating this funding, who is accountable for ensuring this funding helps the RBUSD community, how will this funding support accessibility, accountability, and transparency, how will the funding save teachers, guardians, and student time and improve efficiency? How will the funding help teachers spend more time on what they know best, teaching? We thank the board for their consideration of these questions and how these substantial resources can be used to benefit the entire RBUSD community. Thank you, Kira Bakari and Clark Reed. Number 7. Dear RBUSD Board, I was disappointed to learn that there's going to be a school board meeting tomorrow to consider a return plan that has not been shared with the community of TK through K educators, those who will be placed in harm's way by return to classroom instruction amid rising rates of infection and hospitalizations in LA County. In addition, the lack of transparency, I am struck by the inequity resulting from a return plan that would be limited to a small segment school community, exposing us and our family members to greater dangers than our colleagues in other grades. This does not seem to reflect the values we strive to model in RBUSD. Like so many of our RBUSD colleagues, I am passionate about my work and would love nothing more than return to the classroom where I can be more effectively fostering a lifelong love of learning in my students. However, I am concerned about my students' safety and the safety of my family, and it is upsetting that I have not had a voice in this process. With so many unanswered questions, I urge the board to elicit the input from the TK through K teachers before taking action. Together, I'm hopeful that we can collaborate on a plan that addresses our legitimate concern about safety and equity, and which balances the need of our school community with those who've devoted their careers or serve it. I appreciate your support. Robin Boxer, kindergarten teacher at Jefferson Elementary. Number 8, we want to thank you for all your time helping to bring back our kindergartens to school. Our students have amazed us with how well they are doing on Zoom, but we know it will definitely not be the same as being back in person. Our kindergarten team is looking forward to our students returning soon. We would like clarification on how the hybrid model is going to look in kindergarten. Our biggest concern is about how much time we will have to spend Zooming with the cohorts that are not in the classroom. We know originally the hybrid model shows us having a morning meeting with the whole class for about 30 minutes and then working with students that are in classroom and giving asynchronous work to the students at home, possibly having a check-in or a small group with the cohort that is home for the day. We are hoping this still remains the model for the hybrid schedule. There's been some rumors about simultaneously Zooming while we are teaching students live in our classroom. This would be challenging for kindergarten and could compromise students' privacy in the classroom. We want to use our face-to-face, mask-to-mask instruction to the best of our ability and be able to really focus on the students that are present. We'd love to hear more about the district's plan and possibly have some input to the kindergarten hybrid model. Thank you again for your time. We are so excited for our kindergartens to be back in our classrooms soon. The Burrell Kindergarten team. Number 9, we kindly request that the following be read today at today's meeting. Dear RBUSD school board members, we were pleased to receive recent communication from Dr. Wilds updating our community regarding the waiver process and notifying us that all of our elementary schools have submitted applications. We were also heartened to learn last night during the LA County Department of Health Parent Town Hall meeting that they'll be increasing the number of waivers from 30 to 50 per week. We assume this means that it's quite possible for all of our 8 schools to receive an approval at once, limiting the need of the stated argument against applying for the waiver under early guidelines. Despite these positive advances, however, we want to reach out to you as express our continued frustration and concern over what we view as our district's negative presentation of the waiver process to our community from the get-go. Instead of communicating optimism and clarification regarding the steps being taken to secure prompt reopening as soon as possible, as soon as waivers were granted, instead we heard misrepresentations about the process designed to excuse the district's reluctance to move forward expeditiously and proactively with the waiver application. For example, Dr. Furr made clear that while a large percentage of the students qualifying for free and reduced lunch will be one factor, it was not an essential factor as we were led to believe, a fact that has obviously played out as many of you see which schools have received the waivers to date, many private schools, Manhattan Beach, El Segundo, La Cañada, Calabasas, etc. In fact, it seems quite clear that in most facets of life, the earlier bird gets the worm. Moreover, as we continue to hear from the district and board that the process is complicated, and even though we applied, we shouldn't get our hopes up, Dr. Furr debunked that last night, but basically saying that schools that apply for the waiver and meet all criteria would be approved. It was simply a matter of timing. Again, the districts have been proactive in the process, have been rewarded with prompt approvals. Finally, another argument we repeatedly hear from stakeholders who seemed reluctant to pursue the waiver process is that we wanted to wait until LA County says it's safe. However, Dr. Furr made crystal clear that the waiver process is how the county is determining whether and when a school is safe for reopening. It's actually unfortunate that the state uses the term waiver because it makes it sound like an exception to safety rules is being made. On the contrary, the process is in fact a certification that the county believes is safe to return at a particular school. We believe that the process had been presented to our stakeholders this way, we would have been further along in the process than we are now. We understand the situation has been fluid and the county has changed its guidelines more than once, making the landscape different today than it was a month or 2 ago. That being said, that didn't stop other neighborhood districts from remaining steadfast and proactive with their approach to the process. We hope moving forward that our district will make every effort to do the same as opportunities rise for additional waivers or other creative ways to return our children to our campuses. Thank you for hearing our concerns. We continue to offer support and resources excuse me, to help the district any way we can with the reopening process. Best regards, Rebecca Goldstein, Amy Small. Number 10, Dr. Keller, member of the Board of Education. Please share at the board meeting today. Actually, it says for yesterday, but for today. I'd like to begin by expressing my gratitude for support of all and thoughtful consideration when making these decisions in the best interest of all. I do not envy your job in these trying times, but you as a team trying to view things from all sides to make decisions accordingly. I do very much appreciate that. I understand LA County Department of Health has opened the doors for districts to bring back students in the youngest grades, TK and K, through the limit of 25% of the population cap. It is my understanding, thank you, that this door was open to allow for TKK students who are unable to access curriculum or who lack home support to do so to return to school campuses. Our TK and K students in RBUSD are blessed with both access and support, thus challenging the label of vulnerable population. As a veteran teacher of 34 years, I want nothing more than all of us to be back in the classroom, learning and discovering and playing together. I agree with many parents who truly believe that the children need to be back in school, but we're in the middle of a worldwide pandemic in a state with a growing positivity rate and in a county with numbers spiking higher and higher. Indeed, teaching learning online is not optimal, but we're working most of the time with most students in our district per the recent family survey. Please consider the following points when making your decision regarding TKK students coming back. Timing. Teachers have the usual stress prepping, attending trainings, learning new programs and platforms, teaching intervention with targeted students, added to the current additional stress, assessing complete report cards, holding parent conferences. Compounded with proposed even more stress, setting up a new classroom, redeveloping my entire way of teaching, worrying about my health and my future health and the health of my family, figuring out childcare, unknown logistical issues, all of these right before the holiday stress and just in time for the beginning of the flu season. I would like to celebrate the holidays with my family, but I cannot quarantine to be able to do so. Neither can any of the families of the kindergarten students. I do not want to get sick at any time, but increase the risk of exposure right before the holidays seems worse, even with all the protocols, which should keep us all safe. Logistics and details. The hybrid schedule actually has less teacher contact time than I have with my students now in the current distance learning model. Do the TKK parents really understand this? I cannot be expected to successfully engage, teach, manage 10 plus students who are 5 years old online while engaging, teaching, managing 10 plus students in the classroom. Hoping for some insight here. Recess snack breaks. Where will the children go to avoid intermingling with other classes? Who will be watching them? What will they do during the break? At home, they walk, ride bikes, scooter, jump rope, etc. When do teachers take their breaks? What are their plans? Parents of K students will need for other children to miss part of their online school day to drop off and pick up their siblings. Is this okay? Inequity for contracted teachers, with some being forced to return to campus and not others. If I taught 3rd or 4th grade, I don't have to look at taking a leave for my health or covering childcare. K teachers who are parents must now figure out what to do in the classroom 5 days a week, while their own kindergarten kiddo attends 2 to 3 days and is learning home the rest. And their 3rd grade student is learning at home all 5 days. If all grades return at the same time, maybe fewer issues with this. The state has not deemed it safe for us to return. We are still in the purple tier, I believe. And yes, I completely agree with the importance of the social emotional piece, but is this true for all, not just K? If it's safe for K kiddos to return, then why not all kiddos? Either it's safe for all or safe for none. Yes, we have brought back many students across the district, but this is just a brief time daily with one adult. This seems difficult from what's being asked of the TKK students and teachers upon return. There are many things to consider to make this transition to hybrid as smooth as possible. I don't want to frustrate parents by being ill-prepared. I don't want to let my students down because things are not well thought out and planned, especially things that I don't have control over, and why some things will only be sorted out as we go through the actions to discover them. I don't want to be building this airplane with too few or the wrong tools as we attempt to fly it. I know in our contract many years ago, we teachers gave up our right to strike or call for job actions, but this was done in good faith that we would continue to be treated fairly and justly and with compassion. I believe that this board is truly mindful and respectful and honors that. I cannot afford to take an unpaid leave of absence or retire early, or am I ready to walk away from a job I love? I'm in the highly vulnerable to major category symptoms group, but I must return to work. And whatever is asked of me, I will continue to do my best. I love my job and I love my students. Please hear and honor what we are saying and asking. Please consider waiting to bring back TK and K students to campus for hybrid till it's safe for all students to return. If we must bring the TK and K back before the others, please consider waiting till January at the earliest. Respectfully submitted with gratitude, Ms. Sue Carlton, kindergarten teacher, listed as dedicated and a little stressed at Alta Vista. Final comment. Dear RBUSD board members, it is my understanding you'll be presenting and voting on a district-wide plan this afternoon to return to in-person or hybrid instruction plans. While the plans have impact other grade levels within the district, it is my strong opinion that TK and K students and their teachers represent a unique subset of the student district population due to the young age of the children and their limited socialization and experiences. I have been given the alternative option of take a leave in order to opt out of returning to the classroom in the near future. The definition of leave has not been made clear and may leave rights not have been communicated as of today. Frankly, I have not been provided with enough information to make a clear and informed decision to take a leave or accept the option that will be voted on tonight. Having said that, I understand the pressures that everyone is feeling during this pandemic to get our kids back to school. I have 2 small children myself, and I know the difficulties associated with distance learning. Not every parent is equipped for it, and certainly many children are not well suited for it either. If we are required to go back to class, a critical element will be that everyone involved be on the same page. In other words, will the district be providing all TKK teachers and administrators with a playbook or handbook of protocols during this effort to return to live hybrid teaching that specifically addresses our TKK vulnerable population? Will the district inform parents precisely what is involved in a hybrid learning process and not resemble pre-COVID classroom teaching? Teachers, administrators, and parents collectively need to know and understand this playbook. Protocols need to address what are the teacher-student safety provisions for returning to in-person plan? What PPE will be provided to teachers besides disposable masks and face shields, sneeze guards, protective barriers? How to handle multiple types of students at once, lopers, tantrums, criers, harmful behavior towards themselves or others? What will recess look like? Teacher and student restroom use? How to handle potty accidents, nose blowing? How to handle accidents in general? What to do if a child throws up in the classroom? Under what circumstances do we evacuate the classroom? How to manage students from interacting with each other while adhering to mandated guidelines? How to care for students that are feeling ill or refuse to wear their masks? What is the policy with regards to parents-teacher communication? What is the ventilation policy? Turning the heater on during cold, rainy days, keeping doors and windows open? What teachers are required to leave Zoom lessons to attend to a live student? What is the protocol? I urge the board to consider these issues prior to voting on a reopening plan and provide a clear set of protocols to teachers, administrators, and parents. Thank you, Julie Tomoshiro, Toledo TK teacher. I know you all want to continue hearing from me, but I'm going to quiet down and move back up to 7.2. So to hopefully address a lot of the questions within here, so update on TK2 waiver and expanded vulnerable population, Dr. Susan Wilds and Dr. Stephen Keller.
Thank you. What we're going to do here is I'm going to briefly remind everybody about the TK2 waiver that we submitted. And then Dr. Alpern here will share how this may impact CDC, Child Development Center. And then Dr. Wilds, our new Assistant Superintendent of Ed Services, will highlight the details specific to, outside of the waiver, the vulnerable population, the TKK piece. So there are 3 parts here. And so I know people that have watched this and watch our board meetings religiously have seen this slide. And I hope they, in some ways, sigh or even roll their eyes that they're seeing it again. But I think it's important for people to see and just to highlight. And I think context is important. And it gets back to one of the letters, creative ways to return students to school. Nobody in the South Bay can touch this slide. This is impressive. It's creative ways to bring back students under 3 different domains of the Department of Public Health's guidelines and directives for returning students to school. And just a reminder, and again, clicking that slide, over 1,000 students served thus far. Child Development Center. And just to remind you all, Child Development Center, the students that are in there now, very similar to what the classroom's going to look like for TKK when that day comes. Many of us have had the luxury of being out at the school site and seeing that. And our CDC staff has, by anybody's account, have done an incredible job. And I can speak on that personally. I know others can as well. So we've been quite successful in that model. And it's not a model far off from the teacher model that we're going to talk about today. And I might add, my daughter's there for another 3 hours each day, 5 days a week. Special ed, we've done special ed assessments. We've done the LIFT preschool. We've done CDC, special day classrooms, special ed, other special ed programs, non-contact, non-competition athletics, English learners, and other at-risk populations have been coming back to our school sites safely, gradually, working together with all of our associations and our administrators and our board and everybody. So I want to highlight and applaud the work by our people. I think that's really important to note, and I'm proud of the progress. So now we're going to talk specific to the waiver that we applied for. We applied for it on November 3rd. It's specific to grades TK2 at this time. And as you know, we're under the purple tier 1 in the state of California. So waiver is the only process available to us, at least in LA County at this time. To clarify, it was submitted on the 3rd. LA County Department of Public Health had an email glitch where their server had issues, and so we did have to resubmit, but we have a day or two later. But we certainly were in the timeline. I emailed them the email that I sent to them on the 3rd to confirm we put it in on the 3rd and not the 4th or the 5th, just to let you know. So if there's any ambiguity about that, we're good. And I have all the emails to verify. And then just a reminder, it's based on free and reduced lunch students, and our elementary schools are somewhere between 4 and 15%. Includes private and public and hybrid and cohort model, which would be the return model. And then we have 5 supervisors, and just yesterday we received an email, instead of it being 6 per supervisor, it essentially comes, although I don't know if it exactly said it, but it does? Okay, good. 10 schools, but I mean, I just did the math, so I was just doing a simple division problem. And it's 10 schools and that will be part of the waiver each week. And so they are going to increase that number to 50. We have 8 elementary schools, everybody knows that. And then the process I've explained before, number 8. And then number 9, at this time, I think this is important for the grades 3 through 12 parents to hear, because they're not hearing much from the county and from us, because there's just not being considered any sort of reopening for these grade levels at this time by the LA County Department of Public Health, based on their protocols and processes. And then when we receive information from LA County Department of Public Health regarding our waiver, we will of course share this information with our stakeholders as soon as we can. That's the right thing to do. Do I think we're going to, there was a statement made of, maybe we're reluctant in how this may play out. I think eventually our name will be pulled. I think that, the fact that it's 10 now, I think bodes well for a district like ours and other districts that want to open ideally simultaneously. But I did want to provide this information and remind folks if they haven't seen this yet. And so with that, I'm going to have Dr. Alpern share the Child Development Center piece.
Yes. This move to bring more and more students back, as Dr. Keller said, we've got about 450 students on any given day participating from 8 o'clock in the morning until 4 o'clock in the afternoon on our campuses, in our classrooms, safely, with social distancing, learning. And we want that to continue, and we plan for and expect that to continue. And so as we consider the return to more students in person with the self-contained classroom, whether it's kindergarten, TK through 2, we would expect that our 3rd through 5th grade students would continue to have the full day option 5 days a week on campus. We also would anticipate that we would offer our currently enrolled students in CDC who are in TK through 2nd grade the option to continue 5 days a week. With the current model, or the current offering for them would be the school's PLP model. So that's the offering currently, and that would be an option available to our CDC parents TK to 2. We would also offer our parents in TK to 2 the option to enroll in CDC for full days on the days that they are not attending. We were hopeful when we put this together last time that we did not have full clarification, but we do have clarification that they can participate in 2 separate cohorts. So they could be participating in their CDC cohort 2 or 3 days a week, and then their self-contained classroom cohort with their school teacher the other days. And then depending on what the enrollment is and the number of staff we have, then we would look at the expanding care for other students beyond those 450 that we're currently serving.
Great. Thank you, Dr. Alpern. And what Dr. Alpern shared relates to whether it's the TK2 waiver piece or what Dr. Wiles is going to talk about now, which is the TKK vulnerable population piece. So I'll let her take it away.
Great. So we want to talk about this term vulnerable populations for just a minute. So I'm a little close. So the LA County Department of Public Health has actually kind of given a fairly broad definition of vulnerable students. So when we look at their definition, the definition is students whose needs cannot be met through a virtual instructional program or a virtual instructional platform. So let's take a look who we have deemed vulnerable to date. Under this rule, this idea of vulnerable, we can go up to 25% of a given population. So if a school has 400 students, we can bring 100 of them back outside of the waiver process. To date, just like Dr. Keller said, we have brought back our special day class students, we have brought back our additional students with disabilities, our English language learners, our homeless and foster youth as necessary. And we've also, just starting yesterday, several of our disengaged secondary students, our RBLA program, was able to reopen. So why are we looking at considering transitional kindergarten and kindergarten students to in-person instruction? Why consider returning them? Why would we think that they might fit this definition of vulnerable? Well, if we think about school and distance learning, for most of our students, they have the experience of being in school. They were in school up until March 12th. And that experience and that capital that they were able to gather during their years of schooling was able to take them into distance learning. Working a breakout group, using the technology within the school classroom when they were in class, transitioned them into distance learning. They had several of the skills and the knowledge and able to be able to do that at home. Well, when we look at the population of transitional kindergarten students and kindergarten, this is a subgroup of students with absolutely no prior schooling experience to distance learning. They are fresh. They are engaging in learning at home with their parents. The only school experience they've had to date is driving through and picking things up and experiencing school virtually. Our teachers are doing a tremendous job, but there's a lot that this subgroup still has yet to learn as to how school works, and a lot of that occurs in person. Our TK and K students are actually likely to experience the greatest challenge to receiving that effective remote instruction. I think we can agree, those of us who have young children, they're the least able to be independent and access that learning independently. Over the last several years, as we moved into the new California Common Core standards, looking at kindergarten no longer looks like kindergarten. Kindergarten is a full, rigorous course of instruction, and that course of instruction is pivotal to learning how to read and to be successful in our core subjects later on. TK, based on our survey data, TK and K parents have also indicated that the greatest level of need to support with remote instruction. They indicated in the survey data, that they are spending tremendous amounts of time really helping their children access the learning online. And in kindergarten and transitional kindergarten, there's a high use of manipulatives, hands-on manipulatives, fine motor tasks that's just much more difficult to be delivered and replicate remotely. So today, when we're talking about these two subgroups of students, we're talking about approximately 85 transitional kindergartners and about 630 kindergarten students. Sorry, flipping at the same time. So we want to look at a proposal for a timeline for you all. Today is November 10th. What we would like to do, similar in structure to what we have done with our SDC, with our preschool program, is we want to make sure that we have a measured approach to bringing students back and making sure our teachers feel supported and have everything that they need, and that we communicate to the best of our ability what the protocols are, what the safety guidelines are, how can we look at setting up classrooms, how can we design instruction in a way that best fits what we're looking to do. So what we would like to propose is a November 17th town hall, TKK town hall meeting for teachers. And during that time, what we would be doing is we would be, right now, currently downstairs as we speak, the Educational Services team is working on finalizing a TK to 2 reopening protocol. There's no sense in doing a TK to K and then again one later on. So we wanted to provide one that can clearly articulate what the steps and the procedures are for a healthy return to school. We want to make sure that our teachers and administrators are able to hear from each other and really kind of walk through the steps of what this would look like. Next, we would propose November 19th as a TKK town hall meeting for parents to really kind of re-walk. The last town hall was back in July, and a lot has happened since July. So I think it's time to really get out in front of parents again and have a conversation about what this would look like. Show them. We have pictures now of what our classrooms look like, what our hallways look like, what signage looks like. We have a lot clearer picture of what returning to school will look like, and we want to make sure we communicate that to our parents as well as the expectations as to, okay, parents, we're ready to bring some of your kids back, so what are the choices? What would those choices look like? And to really kind of help clearly articulate that for our families. Then we want to utilize November 19th through the 30th to really give our families time throughout the Thanksgiving break to really commit to let us know whether they want to commit to in-person return under the hybrid model or whether they would like to continue 100% remotely from their home in the online model. And then the week of December 7th, we would propose returning our students to on-campus instruction. Now, we say week of December 7th because we'd really kind of like to drill down a little bit more and make sure our teachers are completely finished with their parent-teacher conferences and that we give our teachers an equitable amount of time. When we set up preschool classrooms, we gave our teachers 2 full days to make sure that they were getting their classrooms set up and they were getting their lesson plans designed. We want to do the same thing for our TK to K teachers. So we would give them those days before we would bring the first cohort of students back. If we're looking at, so that would be approximately December 10th that the first cohort would arrive. That's approximately 1 month exactly from today. So what else are we going to do during that time? We are going to make sure that our principals have all the tools that they need to make sure that they're able to walk alongside their teachers, make sure they're able to make sure the classrooms are set up, make sure they're able to have really rich coaching conversations with their teachers about instructional design. We need to make sure that we are providing our teachers with exemplar instructional designs and lesson planning. We want to make sure that we are providing them PD that they need, as well as the technology setup. Mr. Kinsey, I, and myself, and some TOSAs are actually going to be taking a field trip to some classrooms later on Friday, so we can play around and so we can see what is the setup that our teachers need. We don't want to assume what the setup would be. We want to actually try it out and see how it works. So that is our proposed timeline for bringing this particular vulnerable population back.
We open it up to you.
Just a clarification on the CDC, you're offering it to the students on the days that they do not attend school. Are they able to go to afternoon CDC if they're attending school that morning?
So at this point, based on the staff that we have and the guidelines, we have chosen to offer the full day on the days that they're not in school over the after-school option.
So if someone wants 5 days, they have to
pick
be
the full
completely
5 days as opposed to the sharing in the afternoon.
Okay,
Yeah.
go ahead.
One question to Dr. Hoffman. I assume that your slide on the timeline indicated some assumed approval on the part of the Department of Public Health and the Office of Education on the waiver at some point in the next, couple week or two?
We've already received that approval. That had to do with the cohorts.
Okay, that was the TKK.
The approval that you're that you're referencing, or that I was referencing in speaking to my slide, had to do with the ability of students to be able to participate in two separate cohorts, an academic cohort and then a childcare cohort.
Which would mean if we had the staff, they could go to class one day and then come to a CDC class, but we don't have.
Yeah, so we've looked
set
at
up.
all of the financial picture, and so we believe that that full day option is our most viable option.
Got it.
Since kindergarten is normally AM, PM, when we come back, because of the number of rooms we have, and obviously we don't know how many parents are going to come back, but what is the thought on how that is going to be working?
Structuring the separation, instead of having AM, PM, we can talk to, Dr. Alpern has done all the site visits. She's walked with all of the principals to make sure that we have separate rooms.
Yeah. So we planned for that, and we've planned for that. So we do have space for every kindergarten teacher to have their own classroom to meet at the same time. And it will require us to make some moves in CDC locations.
So this is a plan that we have just to bring back the vulnerable population, which we have approval to do. We don't need to wait on anything. We already have heard for all the guidelines in public health, correct? Same model that parents could anticipate if we were granted a waiver for all the way through second grade. And then once we've done that, phasing in for all of our schools.
Yes, and as a reminder, Department of Public Health has visited all of our sites and
Right.
given us an excellent bill of health at each site.
So I can't imagine that we wouldn't be easily, if we've met all the criteria, be able to follow, meet their guidelines. It shouldn't take. But that, of course, is out of our hands.
Correct.
Do they have to revisit the sites?
My understanding is they don't at this time. I don't know what the nuance is for the waiver exactly, because we haven't been approached, but our understanding is if we just have to let them know. I'll confirm with Jessica for the TKK, just let them know we're bringing back this specific vulnerable population. I don't believe it's a sign-off. It's more of a statement to them to formalize that we have more students, but we're still under the 25% cap. Their big push is going to be that we're under the 25% cap, and we will be under the 25% cap. Just a little nuance, way too much detail, but if, all these, if TKK come back and then eventually the waiver come back, the 25% would only be, cap would only be for those students in grades 3 through 5. It changes. So in other words, it's not 25% of your entire student population at your elementary school. It would be of the students who have yet to return for your vulnerable population.
Okay. I thought it was 25% of the population of the school is what the limit was.
Currently, yes, because we do not have any grade level back. But as you bring grade levels back, you take that out of your 25%, and you recalculate based on the grades remaining. Just want to give you the detail.
They didn't want to make it easy.
Can we go back to the slide about how we're going to communicate this with all stakeholders? Because I think this is new territory for everybody, but it isn't really new territory for Redondo, as you pointed out. We did this when we brought our CDC teachers back in July. So that has been modeled. And when we brought our special day preschoolers back who have even, or even younger than this population that we would be bringing back. I do think, since it is new, obviously we're giving a lot of time for us to communicate and answer questions and then communicate again. The only time that ever direction can be given or decisions made are at these school board meetings. So it isn't as if there was something missed or decided that wasn't talked about in one of these sessions. So I appreciate that we're giving a month at least, because parents can have different thoughts. Teachers, what we always promised was that there would be choice. When it had time, it was not going to be a light switch. It would be a dimmer. And it doesn't matter when we're not going fast enough and we're not going slow enough. And
that's what I hear every day.
It's difficult. And public health decides if we can bring back. We can't skirt public health. This notion that we're bending rules to get there, that this is the only way with the purple level that we're in that we can go back to in-person instruction.
Correct.
So,
And, the one thing I appreciate
Of this plan is that we're going very slow, because by doing the TKK, it's that group, and then hopefully after that becomes 1, 2, and then hopefully sometime, at some point after that, 3 to 5, or 3, 4, or whatever the county decides is the next group. But Dr. Ferrer always talks about looking at what happens and analyzing based on those results. And there's no better way to do that than to say, okay, we're here, we're going to just do the next step, the
Yep.
next smallest possible step.
The one piece to keep in mind as we move forward, just to kind of, continue the next step out, whatever that is that, 4th and 5th grade for most school districts is a larger population. And so under the model that they're providing us, the 12-to-1 with 2 adults in the classroom, you can't open, you might be able to open a few, depending on how it shakes out, but we have class sizes in 4th and 5th grade, at 34-ish, not a lot, but we have some of them, of course. And, some, I don't have the numbers in front of me, but between 28 and probably 34-ish. And so that model for reopening, the Department of Public Health is very aware that things change once you go up the grades. And so the 12-to-1 model just doesn't cut it for reopening for most schools, especially public schools.
I think the biggest thing everybody needs to recognize is a couple of things. Number one is, as Raymer said, this is not something like we're just making it up and trying to go through. The fact that CDC has been around since the summer indicates that ultimately the health department is approving it. I mean, there are other districts that are reclassifying, or not districts, but other schools that are classifying themselves as daycare to open up, but and I'm not proposing that by any means, but, if you look around the world, you have, England that just closed as a country, but all in-person education, including university, was kept open. Sweden, who never closed, is still going. Australia, my cousins are in class full-time, no masks, running. So I think there's definitely different approaches to this, but the reality is, I think as the state has indicated from the beginning, they're going to do this as slow as they want, as slow as possible. They made some moves, things changed, and now today they dial a lot of things back. But the one thing they said, even in the town hall yesterday, is we're not dialing back schools, and if anything, we're increasing, increases as far as giving waivers. So, the notion that was made that we've dragged our feet, it's based on, a lot of it's based on when our meetings are, and a lot of it, so timing of things, but, our neighboring districts got a week up on us based on their meeting schedule, nothing more. But at the end of the day, there's no way, at least, I'll speak for all of us, none of us are gonna bring back with the notion that we're gonna harm anybody. And all the medical evidence has been to the contrary, to say that under grade 3 is safe. It's just, that's just been most everything you read. Yes, the numbers are going up, but frankly, more testing is going on. There's so many variables, and even, I'll use Hawaii as an example. Hawaii opened up and you have to take a COVID test to come. But, they've been closed forever. Everybody's making accommodations, and I think that's the biggest thing everybody needs to recognize, is we're looking at this objectively to make accommodations on the premise, but we have to return to school. We have to return to it, and we're not gonna do it at the risk of harm, but inherently, just as I walk out of this building, I can get hit by a bus. There is inherent harm no matter what we do. So I think we all have to, focus on where we're at. And I think from a standpoint of things, this timeline to me is too slow. That's me personally, but ultimately that doesn't change the direction of what's appropriate or where we need to be. But it's, I think for us, this is an important first step to all of us getting back to some semblance of what we had, as of Thursday, our kids will have been out of school 8 months. And, and under the current trajectory of where we're at, our kids, if we were going based on where everybody's expectation of where this is going to be next September. If we waited and waited and waited until the vaccine comes out, everybody gets to this and that, but, with every flu, from the Spanish flu all the way up to now, we've learned to live with it, and we have to figure out how we adapt. It's not to say we can't pull this all back tomorrow. If it turns out that we're wrong, and it turns out that, that's this piece of the puzzle itself, or the numbers go up, or the county says we need to dial back. But the one thing the county keeps saying is they're moving forward on schools. They're not moving backwards. They're moving backwards on bars and restaurants and things, but they keep promoting that schools need to go. So I would just challenge that in our proposal is it's not lacking for the safety or and there's no lack of wherewithal. This has been talked about since May. How are we going to do this? We were ready to go in July. We didn't go in July because county said we're going to pull things back. But even as San Diego and other counties rolled back today, there was no discussion of rolling schools back. So.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought that up. I mean, one advantage we have, and believe me, we're doing it, and we encourage everyone to reach out to their friends and family in either Orange County and San Diego County. We're learning from their successes and some of the mistakes. And so we're on the phone, we're talking to people. We want to do this right, as we've done thus far. And we hear those teacher comments tonight. We do, believe me. We're taking notes. We want to address their questions, their concerns, minimize their anxiety, work together. Those are all pillars of who we are and what we advocate here. And so we will certainly loop back and address those questions specifically.
No, safety is first and foremost, as it is in all cases, but, and I don't think anyone on this board, being presumptuous when I speak to it, but I don't think anybody here would argue anything different. We want what's best for all involved, and and make sure that everybody's well informed and figure out what, and if we make mistakes, we'll figure out how to fix them. So.
Yep. And we'll own them.
Questions, comments, directions?
The only thing I would say is there's no team of principals and administrators that I would trust more to open our schools up. Admittedly, in the midst of a pandemic, I still have 100% faith that we're going to do it right, professionally, and safely, with oversight from the board and numerous conversations that we have all the time, not just at these board meetings.
Yeah, and this board has never been reserved in the sense if we need to call a meeting, we need to do things. Just because we have gaps doesn't mean we won't come back tomorrow or the day after or whatever we need to do so. So.
Well, and one thing I might say, Brad, is spending a massive amount of time on my day job on the issues related to the Department of Public Health and other items at the airport. We have to trust, I believe, the science and the direction that we're receiving from those professionals that are on the front line. So I put a tremendous amount of trust in their judgment as to what the science is telling us. So I do agree we need to address the concerns of our teachers, but we also need to look out for the interests of our kids. And so as they're telling us we're good to go, we need to take the precautions seriously. We need to be sure that we're doing everything that we're supposed to see that this is safe. But, I think once we get the nod off and the science is behind this decision, I think this is where we need to go.
Yeah, I think the last comment I would make is the fact that some of our surrounding public schools have already gotten approvals indicates that the county doesn't feel that it's unsafe. Because, and I would strongly argue we're better prepared for this transition than any other district in the South Bay. And I'll take on anybody on that conversation, but ultimately, if they, as the numbers started off with the private schools, because there ultimately was not collaborative piece required. And so, now that things have continued to evolve, but, we respect both sides of where it is. And, but we won't return if it's not safe, so.
And so if the board is okay, what we would do, communication-wise, is send something to staff and parents on Thursday. Tomorrow's a holiday, as we all know, and just explaining it, and then obviously starting the communication process. I'm saying Thursday morning.
Yeah, I'm very happy with that 4-week time frame. I like it.
Can I just say one thing?
Of course.
Should I-
If you, yeah, just for the
So people can hear.
online, yeah.
When we look at the week of December 7th, that simply isn't going to work. We're in parent conferences. Sorry.
Technology, gotta love it. I spend all day in front of it. We're in conference, we have a week and a half of parent conferences at the elementary level. So it's that Monday and Tuesday. And you have stated that to give teachers 2 days in which to prepare. So that brings us basically to Friday. So the week of December 7th, it doesn't work.
Yeah, I think there's ways we can work around that too. I mean, we can talk about again, this is a proposed, and,
I understand, but at the same time, it's like we can't have parent conferences and get classrooms ready and do planning at the same time. It just doesn't work.
I have an idea, but I think we can talk about it offline.
Yeah, it's fine. We hear you.
Okay, so, as far as the concept, obviously, we can, we have a little bit of flexibility. Is there anyone that has an objection to what's been proposed, or at least give direction to staff to continue to pursue forward?
Keep going forward.
Okay, so hearing no objection, I think
Okay,
you
thanks.
have direction. Okay. Student board member report. Charles Thurman.
Hello, everyone.
Hello.
All right, there we go. Hello, everyone. So these are a few updates from the high school. So I've been working with Mrs. Mata, who's the ASB advisor at RUHS, to reach out to the principals of the elementary and middle schools for the Young Leaders of RBUSD program, which will be continuing online this year. I will be planning online training sessions with the kids in the following months and hopefully get that going as much as we can. And I would also like to give feedback about our discussion last meeting. And I support that we continue to educate parents about COVID-19 and some of the regulations that restrict our schools from opening back up. And then last thing, thank you all for participating in the fundraisers. We still have the holiday tree sale going on. That will be going on for a few more days. And the details of that are on the RUHS website, where you can buy it in the ASB web store. Any questions? All right, thank you.
Are you selling wreaths? Not just trees?
Yes.
Yes, that's
Yeah,
right.
So I got a fake tree. All right.
No.
Thanks.
Any other questions?
Can parents buy these masks?
I believe they still can. I'm not completely sure. It's a part of the Spirit pack, but I can double check on that for you as well. But that would also be on the ASB web store. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Keller.
Yes, congratulations to Ms. Karen Sato. We're excited to have her at Alta Vista. We really are. And she'll be transitioning with Dr. Hillier 2 weeks before the winter break, and she's ready to go. We're lucky to have her, so let's go. And then I'm going to have Dr. Wild share something in the way of an update, a little programmatic piece. And obviously, I want to congratulate Dr. Wiles for taking the helm of the Ed Services Department, doing a great job already, and clearly running fast. And then I have a few more things after Dr. Wild.
Good evening again. Board President Serkin, members of the board, and Dr. Keller. Before I share, I have a brief update for the Learning Continuity Plan I want to share with you all tonight. I just wanted to take a moment to thank the board for this opportunity. I am extremely excited to join Dr. Keller's cabinet and work with the entire educational services team downstairs to ensure the highest level of care for our students, for our staff, for our teachers, and our administrators. We are in an unprecedented time right now in educational history, and I am actually extraordinarily proud of the work that team downstairs has done, has taken on excitedly, and what they've been able to produce. So thank you for putting your faith in me and the team, and we're going to continue to work tirelessly to ensure that our teachers and schools are supported and that our kids have everything they need to be successful. So let's get started. Learning Continuity Plan. So we wanted to provide you with the board with a brief update to the RBUSD Learning Continuity Plan that was adopted back in September, if anybody can remember that far back. September of 2020. As a reminder, Senate Bill 98, signed into law back in June, eliminated the requirement for LEAs to adopt a local control and accountability plan for the 2020-21 school year. And in its place, they required the adoption of a learning continuity and attendance plan for this unique school year. Now, the plan required districts to address the continuity of learning, to detail the specific actions that were being conducted through in-person instruction and through distance learning. Additionally, the plan required a description of how specifically we are increasing and improving services for our low-income, our English language learners, and our foster youth, which are known as our unduplicated student count, compared to all of our students. So the RBUSD plan was submitted by the deadline on October 1st, while the Los Angeles County Office of Education reviewed each and every one of them. Educational Services held a meeting with our reviewer, Jeannie Keith, on October 28th, and was followed up by a formalized letter that was sent to Board President Serkin that outlined any recommendations for amendments to our plan. SB 98 requires that we share those recommendations with all of you. So RBUSD received only one recommendation to our plan, and that is to add to our district-wide action descriptions, including greater detail about how our actions are specifically designated for those unduplicated students, and how those actions are what they call principally directed and effective. Basically, this means that they're requesting greater detail for stakeholder readers, and that's how really LACO serves as readers. They are reading it from the point of how would a stakeholder interpret the plan. As the writers of the plan, often we are so deep into the work, we often don't articulate each and every aspect of what we're doing, and I'm going to give you an example in just a moment. In several of our actions that we designated as improving services, we actually also spoke about supporting students with disabilities related to those actions, and so the reviewers commented that they wanted those two subgroups separated. So for example in our plan, one of our actions is the purchase of Nearpod. Nearpod is a purchase that RBUSD made to increase teachers' ability to provide interactive lessons, interactive videos, formative assessments of students. In addition to the basic Nearpod purchase, we also purchased specific bundles. We purchased an SEL bundle, we purchased an English language learner bundle, which were additional costs. Our reviewer is asking us to go back and add greater detail as to how we identified the need for that EL bundle and how they meet the needs of our EL learners and how we determined that was an effective action. So, and how that Nearpod bundle is separate and apart from the regular Nearpod purchase. And just very explicitly talk about how it's above and beyond what all students are getting in terms of Nearpod. So that's our update to the Learning Continuity Plan. We believe the local control accountability planning cycle will begin again in January, February.
And then I'll add, now that we're compliant, thank you, Dr. Wiles, just kind of playing off what Mr. Wittgen shared, I wanted to just highlight that, we constantly are thanking our teachers, classified staff, CDC staff. I just want to really acknowledge our administrators who've been working incredibly hard, who've been, since the closure, have been showing up every day on their site, working hard. And, the summer was here, and obviously they had some vacation time, some of them. The team here, everybody here. But they're showing up every day at work, appropriately distanced, wearing their mask, washing their hand multiple times a day, modeling it for their employees. And I just couldn't agree any more than, what was shared earlier by Mr. Whitkin, which is, if any team can continue to pull this off, it's the administrative team, the leadership team we have. And so just hats off to them. Obviously, we acknowledge all of our staff, but I probably just should say it a little bit more about our administrators. And then if you drive by any of our schools, and many of you do, even on a day like yesterday where we had a power outage, you still saw a pretty full parking lot on Adams, which was one of the closure areas, our district office. Our district office was out of power yesterday. You saw several administrators here. And at our school sites, you see the administrators, you see our teachers, many of them. You see our classified staff, of course, our AFT folks. You see everybody. I just would say, as you drive by our schools, you would almost think school is open, other than the drop-off and pickup of traffic. So obviously want to acknowledge our staff for being there at the school sites, so many of them. And, we get to visit the school sites as board members and myself. We were at, Toledo as an example yesterday, and just watching our teachers beautifully ignore us as we wave to them as they're, and then they catch up with you later and apologize, and don't apologize. We just love that you're intense. We love your intention. We love your deliberate instruction, your excitement on a computer. Not the ideal setting for anybody, but our teachers are making the most of it and doing arguably as well as anybody. Race and Equity Committee, we meet next week. We're excited. It'll be our second meeting. We're still getting to know one another, and it's a big group. It's a bigger group than I'm used to in a virtual experience, but that'll be next week. I want to remind folks that tomorrow's Veterans Day, no school, and of course, if I don't see you, have a happy Thanksgiving, because some of you I won't see. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Keller. All right, jumping back around again. Now we're at 8.2 of the hearing section. So we are going to, or I'm sorry, 8.3. So we're going to open the public hearing concerning increase of school facility funds. Hearing no comment or complaints, I need a motion and a second to close the public hearing.
Moved.
See, student advisory vote. Aye. All those in favor say aye.
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 Thank you. Okay, moving on to general consent. Any items that anyone wishes to pull?
10.6.
10.6, okay. Hearing nothing else, can I get a motion second to approve 10 or for 10.1 to 10.5?
Second.
Okay. Student advisory vote? Aye. All those in favor say aye.
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 Thank you. Okay. Motion and second for 10.6, please.
Second.
All right. Mike?
There were a couple items on this I just wanted to flag. I'm fine moving this forward for approval, but there were 3 sections on there. One is section 0470, that's the COVID mitigation plan. And while what's in there is very, very generic, I just wanted to be sure that staff is fully aware of what's in there, because we seem to be changing on a pretty regular basis. So I don't want to be putting policy in that we're not aware of, and we may need to revisit, maybe bring it back and adjust it from time to time. Also, I was really glad to see section 5141.52, 5141.52, that's suicide prevention. And it's got great stuff in it. I just want to be sure that we're serious about delivering. It involves training among our instructors. It involves other stuff that I think is really important. So let's just be sure that as we vote it in, that we're taking it seriously, particularly right now. and particularly as we round the corner into the next calendar year with the secondary schools still distant learning. And then just as a heads up on the physical education one, the 6142.7, if we could please be sure we're cognizant of what's in there and recognizing we're putting policy in place that we're not going to necessarily be doing because of COVID, and presumably this is post-COVID policy that we're putting forward. So with that, with those comments and requests to staff, President Serkin, I'm prepared to go forward with this.
Okay. Any other comments?
Nope.
Okay, student advisory vote?
Aye.
All those in favor say aye.
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 5-0. All right, moving on to action items. 12.1, the adopt a resolution 2021:15 concerning the increase of school facility fees for residential and commercial industrial development fees.
So moved.
Thank you. I think we're ready for this one, so I will go with student advisory vote. Aye. All those in favor say aye.
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 Thank you. All right, moving on to 12.2, adopt resolution amending signatures. Motion second, please.
Second.
I think it's self-explanatory, so. Student advisory vote? Aye. All those in favor say aye.
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 Hearing 5-0. Moving on to 12.3, adopt agreement between RBUSD and Clear Recovery Center for the 2020-2021 school year. Motion and second, please.
So moved.
Thank you. Dr. Wells.
So this is a recommendation that the board approve a one-year agreement between RBUSD and the Clear Recovery Center to provide individual, group, school-based counseling services to identified students in grades 6 through 12, working at all schools serving students in grades 6 through 12, free of charge. This agreement includes consultation with district staff on effective strategies for working with students who are at risk, assisting our counseling teams with risk assessments as needed, and referrals for more intensive services. And staff is recommending that you approve this agreement.
Any questions?
It's great that it's free of charge. Sorry, yeah.
Hard to comply with free?
Yeah.
Well, and anything we can do to support our students' mental health issues are, I think, are great to see. How will it be made available to parents on a recommended basis?
Yes, they'll be working with counselors.
Okay. Student advisory vote? Aye. All those in favor say aye.
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 Hearing 5-0. Moving on to 12.4, adopt resolution R 2021:17, reduction or elimination of particular classified services. Motion and second, please.
So moved.
Thank you. Dr. Wesley.
Yeah, this is a recommendation to eliminate 2 positions in our CDC program, and it's due to reduction in income due to our low student enrollment at this time. The employees who are impacted have been notified of the potential resolution being approved. They have bumping rights. They're aware of those bumping rights. We've reviewed all of this also with CSEA, so they're aware. Fortunately, due to an existing opening, those who are impacted will retain a position in RBUSD. So staff is recommending that you approve this resolution for the elimination of 2 positions in the Child Development Center.
Okay. Any questions? With the salary, we'll skip. All those in favor say aye.
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 Thank you. 12.5, approve the new job description and salary schedule for the program specialist CDC. Motion and second, please.
Second.
Thank you.
So this is a new job description for a position that is already on the classified pay scale. So it's on the pay scale, but there wasn't a job description for it. I just want to be clear that it is a classified job description, not an administrative job description. And so we have reviewed the changes with CSEA prior to bringing it to the board. And after analyzing the work of 2 account technicians in CDC, it's evident that their current classification isn't aligned to their job description. Thus, the proposed new job description is in better alignment of what they're doing in the office. The pay assigned to the job description will match their current pay or the pay of the account technician. So it's not going to result in a budget increase for the CDC program, nor will it result in a pay reduction to the 2 employees that are impacted. So we are recommending that the board approve this new job description.
And this is required before you can reassign them to the new description. That's the whole point.
Yes, so upon approval, we'd be reclassifying them in this new position.
Okay. Hearing no further questions, all those in favor say aye.
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 Hearing 5-0. 12.6, approve the recommendation for the employer contribution to health benefits for non-represented employees, including management, supervisory, confidential, adult education, and independent studies. Motion and second.
Second.
Thank you. Dr. Wesson.
And this is a recommendation to approve the benefit rates and employer contribution for unrepresented management South Bay Adult School confidential employees. You approved the benefit rates and the employer contribution for certificated last board meeting, and we will bring a recommendation for classified after we finish negotiating with CSCA.
Okay. Questions?
My only comment, whatever question, in the agenda says budget source $2,000.
Right.
I don't know if that's,
The only medical group where there was a slight increase was with Kaiser when we moved to CISC. Kaiser, CISC didn't have an equivalent plan. They had a richer plan. So it caused the district to contribute. There's about 46 people in that group. It's Kaiser plus one actually only. So if you're a Kaiser, it actually went down just single, or if you're Kaiser family, it went down. But Kaiser plus one, I happen to be part of that group, is the only plan where there was a slight increase, which is equivalent to about $2,000.
Okay.
And I'm just happy we can offer this
100%.
added benefits in the medical plan.
All right, hearing nothing else, all those in favor say aye.
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 Hearing 5-0. All right, moving on to unofficial attendance and enrollment reports. Dr. Alpern. It's in here, but
It's in the packet, but I don't know if it's-
yeah, the numbers look good.
Yeah, okay, so there's some attachments there. And but I think the most important thing just to draw your attention to is the excellent attendance that is happening this school year. As you know, we're under a different model for attendance taking, and I really give a lot of credit to both the administrators trying to figure out a system, but then also the teachers in their patience in waiting for us to get clarification about developing an attendance system that would meet the auditing expectations. Even the auditors, 3 weeks after the school year started, our auditor said, we still haven't received clarification from the state about how to audit the records. So it's really been a moving target, and it's required a lot of patience on everyone's part. So I want to thank all of our employees that are impacted by this. But ultimately, I think what you can see is student engagement. I mean, students can't be engaged if they're not present. So kudos to everyone, and I hope to see a continuing pattern of 99.5% attendance.
So,
It's great when you walk 7 feet to your
yeah.
desk, how attendance improves.
Some don't walk 7 feet.
Well, they just sit on their bed, but yeah, but it's amazing how that number's dynamically changed significantly.
So even with the limited number of disengaged students that we have, our daily attendance numbers are still running that high?
They are, and some of that has to do with the fact that the way the state has set up the requirement is that if a student completes an assignment, even if they didn't show up virtually to like a synchronous class, if they did work connected to that class, they're marked present. they're marked present. So that also contributes to that 99.5%. So really, that 0.5% is truly those that are not checked in any way, shape, or form. Yeah, it doesn't mean that within the 99.5% that there aren't kids who are at risk. Right, that, for sure. But, you know, there's gradients of that.
Great. All right. Moving on to correspondence. Anyone have any correspondence they wish to share?
I think we shared quite a bit.
I think we did. Hearing none, we will move to board member reports. We'll start with Mike.
Great visit to the high school, eerily empty there. We hope to see that change someday, not too distant future. But other than that, I don't have anything to add.
Great. David. Brad.
I was very happy to have been able to visit Adams, Dreisler, and Bernie. Bernie was probably the most engaged teachers of all the sites that I visited. And I think that's a testament to the leadership at Bernie as well as in the district. So very happy to see all of that. And I donated at the ASB blood drive last week. So happy that I was able to do that.
I thought you were going to show a tattoo or something.
No. No, we get our 3 tattoos when we leave, right?
That's I get to do yours, okay. Raymer.
I too have enjoyed the site visits. It's just amazing to see the teachers and administrators working, and the students too, that are on Zoom from the youngest to the oldest, and do look forward to seeing more kids on campus as appropriate, because some are doing very well remotely and some are struggling tremendously with remote learning, and this isn't going to be easy for anybody coming back, even in the hybrid model, especially given that that's the only safe way we can do it in the middle of this pandemic. And know it, it's never going to be completely equitable, because if it was equitable, we'd have every one of our teachers going back and all of our kids. So our middle and high school kids, stay strong, because we're still going to keep working on ways to keep you engaged and get back on campus, and appreciate that they've gotten athletics, and not just team sports, but all athletics. They're working toward getting those kids back on campus. I'm going to be meeting later in the week with Dr. Keller and some others and some concerned parents to try and increase our communication, or maybe organize it in such a way so that it's really easily accessible on our website. That's going to be the key moving forward. You know, lots of things are discussed here, and people want more information, and we'll do our best to keep answering that. And I love how everyone in this district answers any email or any phone call, and we'll do a better way to try and streamline getting that information out. So that's it.
I will echo Raymer's comments and elaborate on it in the sense that, you know, I think our teachers are doing a stellar job. I think they're engaged. They're working hard. You know, our decision to move forward with TK and K is no reflection of anything less than the fact that everything's been stellar. It's more, you know, as I alluded to, or actually stated clearly, if it was up to me, we would be all 12, we would be completely back. But I haven't been elected dictator, so that doesn't work. No, but it, you know, to the best that we can do. I mean, it saddens me that kids aren't on campus. We recognize. I don't think any of us here takes it lightly, and you know, and when we return, it will not take away from any of the hard work that everyone's doing. So, calendar of events. Tomorrow we're off. Thanksgiving break, the 23rd to the 27th. Assuming we don't hear anything on the waiver otherwise, or some need otherwise, we will be back here on the 8th. Winter recess, the 21st to the 1st. Another holiday on the 11th of January for Martin Luther King, and back here on the 12th. Any future agenda items? Hearing none, can I get a motion and second for adjournment? Student advisory vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned.